What are you saying?
Oh, well, with what you were saying about how it feels like it.
Oh, it's really bitey.
Yeah, but it's like that's how it's supposed to be.
Right.
Because it handles exactly like how a side-by-side is
like
supposed to handle.
It's got that
like
kind of roll
like
cage top heaviness too.
Yeah, that's why people roll real side-by-sides all the time.
Right.
It's the same thing.
Definitely a learning curve in the curves and the turns, but I thought
It does really well on gravel because it allows it to actually kind of, you know, like drift through them a little bit.
Right.
It has a little bit of slide to it.
Yep.
But like if you're on like grass or something, it will just dig right in.
Yeah, the high bite area, like on the pavement, it was wanting to lift up a rear wheel like every 5 seconds. But once we got onto the smooth skate park surface, it got to be able to slide. You have to drive one of those though.
Like a real vehicle.
Right.
But it's kind of a cool thing though. I think it's cool to experience that more realism type RC. It's kind of cool to have both and go between the two. It's totally different.
Now,
totally different.
With the price of the UDR, you know that was a few bucks.
Yeah, big money.
But why though?
Well, you're paying for it being that realistic type thing, you know, and I'm sure that's the same deal with this. I don't know what this costs. I'm sure it's a lot of money because of what it is.
Oh, we're gonna talk about that,
you know.
But I want you to go ahead and throw it up on the corner of your truck again, just because
it's just straight up heavy too. And what one thing it seems like they did to help it not do what side-by-sides do is they made a clear conscious choice to make this very, very bottom heavy, low center of gravity.
Right.
And the best you can with the side-by-side. Right. You can feel it's heavy and it's all from the bottom.
Right.
You know,
go ahead and pick up the body though.
I mean, the body has weight to it. It definitely does.
Right.
But like comparatively, you know, you can feel that it's heavy on the bottom.
They tried.
You know, yes, there was an effort.
Okay. Throw it up so you can get a look at the front suspension. Throw it up here. Look inside the wheels. What are you seeing inside there?
That's kind of funny.
What do you see?
Seeing some Brembos.
Yeah. So while it's fake stuff and it's not actual, it's what they call, it's a scale-ness.
Yes. Yeah.
People are having a huge issue with this RC car because what it is they're not realizing. They're thinking, I think, basher, they're thinking price, they're thinking the fact that this has got only a 3S capable ESC.
Oh, that's, well...
So basically what it's got is it's got an upscale, it's got the ESC from the DB Pro.
Okay.
So basically the DB Pro and the laser nut, it's got the electronics from the DB Pro. And you know the DB Pro is like, it's a mint. It's a awesome RC. Yeah. So they're giving you longer travel suspension.
Yep.
They're giving you...
It soaks everything up. I mean, like,
lights front and rear, dual lights too.
That grass,
right.
That was all patchy. So you got big lumps of like just grass, like and dirt and whatever, and it just.
And if the tires were filled with water,
it'd probably be a lot better.
Woo! I don't know. You nailed something.
If they didn't blow up,
right? We wouldn't have had a blow up.
I mean, even as far as like, you know, doing the correct. I mean the lug. What
does it say on the tires?
Yeah, that's the same deal as the
UDR.
whatever.
UDR.
The UDR. Same deal. It's like an actual real tire.
Right.
And that's again with the realism type stuff, with how this handles and how that handles is realism. It's just kind of cool. It's a totally different thing.
You got your phone on you?
Yeah.
Ask Google, how much is a Traxxas UDR? It's going to be easier because if he...
Traxxas UDR price.
Yeah. If he does that, it'll at least give him a price range. Now, keep in mind, the UDR's been out for ever, but Traxxas also doesn't really change their prices.
This is why I don't use voice, because it just picked up everything you said.
Oh, sorry. Did it just do it again?
No. I hate using voice command stuff. It weirdly varies by like $100 depending on where you are, but anywhere from $700 to $800.
Okay. Now, based upon what that RC is,
honestly,
if you had the money, and money wasn't really a problem for you,
then yeah.
Okay.
Because that's, well, what's that? I mean, it doesn't do things the same way, but it does it similar. What was that green one that you've got? That's the similar style.
Green one?
You know what I'm talking? It's, I believe it was green. It's a similar.
Oh, you're talking about the Mojave?
Yeah.
Yes.
That one's a similar style.
Similar.
What's the price on that?
Similar look. That's where it stops. Similar look. It's because that is different. Suspension wise on the Mojave versus the UDR, that's a misconception because everybody looks at the body and they look at how it moves and they're like, oh, it's the same exact truck. The difference is that with the Arrma, that is a straight basher. You can mangle that thing.
Well, what I'm saying, like what I was gonna say is it's similar. That's the only thing I could really compare it to.
Right.
That's like that
Look it
kind
up.
of thing. I'm sure that's a lot cheaper, but you're also you're paying for the R&D type stuff, the realism of the other one.
But look up the price of the Mojave. Just to get an idea.
What is it? A
Arrma Mojave, ARRMA. You know, Arrma.
Oh, it's actually kind of similar. It's not that far off. 630.
Right.
Oh, it's not terribly far off.
Right. But it's also a different drive.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you know better than I do.
There's
And
but
the
you've
last
driven
time I
it.
drove the both of them was like.
Oh, I know, but I know
ago.
that you know the difference between the two.
Yeah,
just by driving.
there's for sure a difference, but they are similar.
Right, but without me even saying anything,
this is for sure way more like that UDR.
Right.
As far because it's that realism, the way it handles, the way it soaks up everything, even as far as like the turns. Obviously, the other one takes turns way better.
So,
but that's because this is what it is.
Right. So, do you actually know what this is? Like, what is it?
A side-by-side.
Okay, it's a side-by-side made by who?
Razor.
Razor, which is?
Polaris.
Right. Okay, so there's a certain amount of branding.
You also, you
licensing.
Have to pay for that, the licensing.
Right. So with this RC, they had to pay for 3 separate licenses. They had to pay for the wheels. The wheels are actually a specific wheel. I can't remember what it is right now.
Wait, really?
They had to pay for the licensing for the wheel. They had to pay the licensing for the BF Goodrich tire, and they had to pay Polaris and Fox. So
I
now,
didn't realize the wheel was even one of those things too, huh?
Yeah, the actual rim. Yep.
Because I understand, obviously, Fox, Polaris, and BF Goodrich.
What do you think about the rear suspension?
Again, it's literally a side by side, and that's solid too.
Right.
You know. Yeah.
That's something that I'll definitely agree with. Is that the rear suspension on this thing definitely seems to be super solid.
Because also, what's funny, like real side by sides, it's kind of a weak point, and they made a point to make these not a weak point.
Beefed up.
Yeah.
Right. So now go ahead and look up the price of this thing. It's just literally called the Losi RZR. Let's get the expression on his face.
$620, right? Is that right?
Yeah.
So it.
But there's that practicality. There's a reason why maybe he might want to have a Razor.
Well, yeah, it would be nice, but it would also be recklessly spending money that you don't need to when you could
Right.
spend it on something else
And
that would
that's-
make more sense.
And that's the point. So a lot of people
It's like,
are
yeah, I could go out and buy a C6 if I want to,
Right.
but it wouldn't make sense to.
Right.
Right now, at least.
Well, let's put it this way. At my age that I am right now, I started looking at Raptors again.
Yeah.
At my age. Because it's impractical. But
Yeah.
my age is impractical for my mind.
Yeah.
So it's like,
Funny.
and will I use a Raptor for how it's designed? Yeah, driven on the street.
Yeah.
Literally, Raptors are designed to...
You know what's funny is, like, with something like that, like, if you're looking for, like, the truck that's, like, the faster truck or
Right.
whatever,
Right.
you know, and that you're just going to use it on the street,
Right.
a Limited.
Right.
That has the same engine as the Raptor.
Right.
But that's a whole different conversation.
Right. It is. It definitely is.
I mean, Raptors
So-
are cool, and I really like Raptors.
Right.
It's not practical for me, and it's hard to justify the cost.
Right. So, talking about like those scale vehicles like that Razor right there. Let's just say you were in the market to buy an RC car. Is that something that you would ever consider?
Probably not.
Okay, and why?
'Cause I don't really care enough for that. I mean, I feel like if anything, I'd be more likely to get a UDR over that if I wanted the more realism. Yeah, it's a little bit more money, but when you're talking the $600-700 range, $80 is not that much money.
Right. But something you also mentioned too is you were asking me about the Mojave.
Yeah, I feel like if anything, I'd be more likely to buy the Mojave because that's more my style kind of thing. Something that you can kind of beat on, still has similar characteristics, but
Right.
isn't quite, you know,
Right.
because, you know, it's cool. I mean, like I said, driving the UDR is cool, and like driving that is cool, but I feel like
It's
I would.
limited.
Yeah, it is limited. Especially that is limited because
Limited-
of what it is.
Limited based upon what it is, how it should be driven.
It's even loose gravel. I mean,
Right.
yeah, it's a learning curve, and you just
Right.
have to have more time behind it. But like,
I think what it is that the
you
big
get a lot more truck out of a
Right.
UDR.
the big
Lot more.
the big thing that I think people are missing is this RC car is not designed for technically the basher. It's designed for the person that, and this is where the fight is. It's because I'm going to say these words. It's designed for the person that's into scale. But then
Yeah.
because it's bigger, because it had to be, because you would lose its capability, you would lose being able to have fun if this thing was smaller because they called it a 1/10 scale, or if they... I had to very quickly change the battery on the GoPro because the GoPro died. Because the conversation kind of is continuing in a sense, because you know what he's, I should have the thing in the background. We'll have the thing in the background, that way people can be all pissed off.
Watch out for those wires.
Wires all jammed. Watch out for them wires. Alright. He's trying to fix it. He's trying to make it look perfect. It's funny with what I've noticed with this thing is,
I like how that does that.
yeah, see, here's the crazy thing. I actually like this thing.
It's cool. It is. It is something that's cool.
It's fun. It's different.
Yes.
That's the
what is
difference.
nice about it.
That's what's killing it.
Yeah.
Is it's different.
And
So
with that conversation we were saying about like people saying that, you know, for the cost at 3S,
Right.
if it was anything more, it'd be unusable. I feel like.
So-
if it's already kind of tough to deal with as is, I feel like it's powered perfectly.
Right.
It shouldn't be any more. It definitely shouldn't be any less.
Right.
But if it was really much more, you'd have such an issue being able to handle a thing without it rolling over nonstop.
So what I think
And it's
it
just
is,
like, it's not just a vehicle you drive in a straight line to go really, really
Right.
fast. It's one that you mess around with, try and toy with, being able to turn it and learning how to drive it like you would a side-by-side.
Right.
Because if you went and drove a side-by-side and went, you know, 55, 60 miles an hour and then tried to crank the thing, you'd be in for a bad time. It's the same thing with this.
Right.
And another thing with this, too, is with it being the shape that it is, I feel like there's going to be a lot of times where it just ends up on its side and won't return on its wheels. Where,
it'll
like,
turtle
other
shell.
Ones,
It'll
yeah,
turtle shell. Yeah.
It'll get stuck more. Yeah, the bottom is pretty heavy, so it'll help. But it's so tall, it's going to get stuck on its side.
Where this RC car came from was hobby quarters, and the owner took it out. And it was funny to listen to him because as he was learning how to drive it, it kept on turtle shelling. And that was his, he was like, stop going on your roof. You know what I mean? And it's just because
you have to chase after.
He needs to learn how to drive it.
Yeah.
But you need to learn how to drive it. That's the issue.
Yeah. And that's the thing with something like this too, is as you get comfortable with it, you're going to want to push it, and you're going to end up flipping it over more and more and more and more.
Number one, I just don't think this RC car is for everybody. They literally designed this, I think, for the people that wanted to have potentially the RZR that there never was an RC like modeled after.
Yeah.
And for those people that are super crazy into scale,
it's a niche.
Yeah, so for those people that are super crazy into scale, you're gonna have the problem with this thing only because you're not gonna like the scale. Like, that's hard to explain. If you're gonna trailer it, if you're that kind of guy, you're not gonna, this ain't gonna work for you. Yeah. There's only just so much that they can do to make it usable. If this thing was any smaller, that would be a joke.
Yeah, it would be totally unusable.
And then if they, again, like you said, if they all of a sudden just created a separate scale,
then people wouldn't know what would
they'd
work
be all
with
screwed
what,
up.
and,
Right. They'd be all screwed up. So,
yeah.
anyways, that was like a lot of talking, but it needed to kind of like happen because it's two people having a similar and separate kind of opinion in a way, but not really. It's an RC car that I am very surprised that I like. Do I like the price? No, but I also don't like the price of a Raptor.
Yeah.
Neither does he.
Yeah.
And it's that practicality thing.
And
for somebody that's a basher, this is not for you. This is definitely not for you. Somebody that's scale. If you complain about scale size and you can't tow it behind your TRX4, it's not for you. This is for somebody else. And being able to drive it, I am very shocked at how this thing actually drives. Granted, we didn't get to drive it that much today because of old heavy fingers over here.
Hey. These are your tires.
My God. So, yeah, make sure you vent, right. Make sure you vent your tires, because when you've got to pay the BF Goodrich price for a brand new tire.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that too. Like,
I don't think the tires are
gonna.
You know what? Actually, look it up online right now if you can. Find out how much, like, it's probably come in a set of 2 or something, or actually because it's Losi, you'll probably have to buy a set of 6. They have to buy a half a dozen. Well, Losi's kind of funny, man, because if you break like one link, you got to buy like all of them.
What?
Yeah, they're funny with how they do things. Because Losi is that, I know you're saying what, but wait a minute, you're a mechanic. So when you replace something, sometimes replacing the other components that are near it or around it makes sense.
Yeah, but this is, that's for...
No, I know, but you know what I'm
So you don't
getting
have
at.
a comeback.
Yes.
You don't have a...
Well,
but here's the thing.
But wait a minute.
They're not behind their, Ford Fusion.
Right.
It's a different thing.
Right.
It's a totally different thing.
But what do you got?
I mean, it's nice that you'll still have it.
What do you got for a price?
If I can even find it.
Losi RZR, RZR, just tire.
$46 for a set of 2.
Okay. Now, is that wheels?
Wheels included.
Okay. How do you feel about that?
Oh, are they the... Hold on. That's just what... Are they the correct one, though?
Yeah, if it's RZR, it's definitely the right one.
Yeah, okay. Well, it doesn't say RZR. But it's the wheel. It is. It's the 4.
Oh, it's definitely the
It's
wheel.
a 4 lug.
Right, it's definitely the wheel.
Yeah. Yeah. So
typically
40
$46.
Yeah, $46 for 2. That's not awful.
So like 20, what is it, 22, 23 bucks a piece or something like that?
I feel like that's just kind of just par
Okay.
for what it is. I mean, are they really ever much less for something
So
like
when
that?
when you got your new tires, what would be the first thing that you did when you got your new tires?
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, we obviously had a blowout for a reason.
Yeah.
And we drove this thing, or should I say I drove it, the owner of Hobby Quarters drove it, he drove it,
And blew it up.
how it should be driven, and because the tires are not vented.
Yeah. Now, do you think they do that for the realism thing? Or is...
The
Because I feel
UDR
like that's kind
Traxxas actually put in with every box a little thing that said vent your tires externally.
So then...
And Arrma,
So then that must be a cost.
Arrma
That's
pre-vents
yeah.
all their tires now.
Yeah. I bet you it's a cost thing because then that's an extra pair of hands that has to do a physical thing.
Right.
So it would have cost more money to have someone do that.
Right.
Where you could just do it yourself in you know, 2 minutes.
Which is literally what needs to happen. Yeah. So if you go ahead and get one of these razor
Vent them so they don't blow up.
right, vent them so like when you drag racing a big rock or when you drag racing a granite that your tires don't explode. So anyways, this is RC Guy Garage and Son. Like I said, we're just over here having a conversation about this very controversial RC. And let's put it this way. If money was no concern, I would have zero problem getting this. Just because if money was no concern, because it's fun, it's different. There's nothing else that's like this particular RC. So, yeah. And I'm also, I'd buy a Raptor too. Well, actually, I'd talk to my son and most likely
get a Raptor R instead.
Right, Raptor R instead. You try to kill me, guy. All right, I'm out. What are you doing today? They got it right. They got it right, dude. Serious. I still have AVC on. Right now, it's not bothering me.